Welcome to the Dedicated Show. I'm Kate Stashny, your host of the Dedicated Show and founder of Dedicated. Today, we are going to talk about data quality and whether it can take us to Mars or it can take us to jail. Our speaker for today is George Firican. He's the founder of LightsOnData, and I think I've known George for probably at least 4 or 5 years now, and we run similar businesses where at least I used to have courses. He has plenty of courses on LightsOnData. He is a professor at a university. He does media engagements, and he's got his own show, Lights on Data, where him and Diana Firican actually put the lights on data. Now, before I bring George up on the show, I just wanted to play a very short clip to give you a sense of where data quality can take you. All right, as you can see, data quality could take you to Mars or it can put you in jail. George, welcome to the Dedicated Show. How are you doing today?
Hey everybody, great. I'm doing great. Thanks so much for the intro and that video too. It made me chuckle. Two reasons why the jail was empty. So, and where would you wanna...
because everyone joined the show, they learned the importance of data quality and they avoided jail time. They're all on Mars, man.
Good. Well, would you prefer to go to Mars or to jail?
That's a great question for the audience. Where do you guys want to go? To Mars or to jail? I'm assuming most people don't want to go to jail. So let's, I would definitely choose Mars, even though I'd like to stay on Earth.
If
I had
like
that
to stay on
option.
Earth too. Especially if it's forever, right? You're hearing about these Mars trip going one way and you're not returning.
It's interesting that they actually have a list of people who want to do that.
Yeah. Yep. Anyways, that's a whole other story and topic.
Yes, absolutely. Well, George, before we get into the topic, I want to give you an opportunity to tell the audience a little bit about yourself. What is it you do? And also tell us, is that like an elephant toy in the background? Because that's something I need to know.
It is, yeah. It's actually whenever my wife and I get sick, that's kind of the toy that my wife sleeps with, and she hands it over to me. Do you want to see it?
Yeah, I want to see it. That's so cute. Oh my God.
See?
Very nice.
It's like a sniffle. Look at those eyes. Yeah. Anyhow. Yes, I know you're a big fan of elephants.
I am.
And look at its tail.
What is that?
Bandaged.
Wait, why? Because it's... Oh my God, I'll show you. Actually, my brother just got me a painting. I'm not lazy. I'll get up. I haven't hung it yet, but it's an elephant painting. Yes.
Very cool.
All right, I won't interrupt. Go ahead. Tell the audience about yourself.
Yeah, the elephant in the room, I guess, right? So, well, I think you've done a very good presentation and introduction of myself. So, thank you again for that. But yes, I'm George Firican, the founder of LightsOnData, where I put the lights on data in numerous ways through online courses on data governance, data quality, data management, data visualization, and more to come. I also have the YouTube channel addressing similar topics and educating people on some would say boring, but I would say necessary topics. And I also have the Lights on Data show, where, again, we have different guests from different data domains, and we're all learning from each other.
I would never call this boring. It is very necessary. At least it's not boring for me or my audience. Otherwise, they wouldn't be here.
So. That's good. And, it's not boring for me either. But I got to tell you, learning this stuff myself and trying to educate myself and grow, I found a lot of content that is boring, and even myself, that I'm in the field, I love this stuff. Sometimes it puts me to sleep. So
I guess, the delivery definitely matters. And I know your YouTube channel, you bring in these emojis and excitement and videos and stuff. You make it more interesting. So although it's not necessarily boring, it could be dry depending on how it's delivered.
Dry, yeah. I think that's a great adjective.
Yes.
So
yes, you do a lot of work in this space, and I think just to set the stage here, let's define what is data quality. What does it mean?
not surprising, there are many definitions for data quality, but I think at its core, data quality really refers to the accuracy, completeness, reliability, and consistency of the data. It's really about ensuring that the data that we collect, that we process, that we analyze is really fit for its intended purpose. And of course, it can be trusted to make informed decisions in the end. That's why we care about data quality, because it's helping us make those informed decisions, data-informed decisions.
And those data-informed decisions can, in your opinion, potentially take us to Mars or take us to jail. So talk to me a little bit about that. Why the two extremes?
So yeah, one of the first conferences that I went to on data quality, data governance back in the day, I attended one presentation, and this one person was a consultant at the time, and he recently finished a contract with NASA. And this was after the 1999 fiasco that NASA had when it lost Mars Orbiter. It cost them about $125 million, and they lost it due to poor data quality. And here's what happened. They obviously had to do investigation and uncover, what went wrong, why did it go into the atmosphere and essentially burnt.
Right.
It wasn't able to engage and enter the orbit and be able to do its task. I think it was like something to look at the climate and take measurements and things like that. That was its intended purposes. But as I mentioned, the trajectory was off and it just burnt into the atmosphere. So what happened was back before they launched it, there were these two engineering teams, one from Lockheed Martin and the other one from NASA. And they ended up utilizing different measurement units in really a key spacecraft calculation. So Lockheed used English units of measurement, and NASA used a metric system. And obviously, the data transformation piece didn't output the right numbers. And, in reality, the data wouldn't have been bad if it had been consistent, right? It was a consistency of the measurement units that was a problem.
Right.
So can you believe it? And it's because they really didn't have all these checks and balances in place. And at the time, they didn't have a robust data governance program to make sure that it's setting these standards and it's clarifying those standards with anybody using these. And people were just making assumptions, right?
Wow.
And yeah. So anyways, yeah, as part of that, internal review panel and everything, they've, uncovered that it was because of all these things. They actually also blamed the congressional budget cuts for a portion of the error. So additional funding would have helped. So I'm mentioning this, if you're looking for business cases for putting some budget into your data quality, this could be one of them. This could be an example. Hey, we don't want to, burn like NASA's orbiter did. So yeah,
that's a good way to ask for budget. Yes. And then so poor data quality, I mean, it can be extremely costly. It could result in great success if done properly. I think it's kind of maybe a thankless job, because if you're doing things right, it goes unnoticed, and you could be on Mars, both in actuality and metaphorically, where you're like succeeding in an organization and people just simply maybe won't appreciate the fact that you had to do a lot of work to get the data quality on there accurately. But
this
then,
actually, go on.
I was just going to say, if you mess up just that one time, you could end up in jail or burned up in space somewhere.
And I'll get to the jail part too, but this also reminds me of another story, and this is from hundreds of years ago, back to the 15th century. But it's very similar to the Mars, crash, I guess, which kind of makes us think that we don't necessarily learn from our mistakes all the time, right? So this was, again, back in the 15th century, and it was when Columbus convinced King Ferdinand and Queen Isabella of Spain to fund his voyage, right? And as we remember, before he discovered the Americas, he had a plan to just sail west instead of, and hit India, instead of going to the traditional route, which was kind of going south to the west of Africa, and then go around it to the south of it, and then up north to India. And that was a long voyage, and took a lot of stops. And he's like, you know what? Why don't we just go west? We know the Earth is round, and we're just gonna go west. Well, he thought the Earth was wrong. Not everybody did. we'll go west, and it's going to be quicker. Obviously, he didn't know the Americas was there, and of course, it was discovered by other people before then. But right, it wasn't known to the Europeans at the time. So, anyways, his logic was sound, but his math was faulty. And it was that faulty math that kind of led the discovery of Americas, which to me, it's a bit amazing. So why was it faulty? So I remember he favored the values given by a Persian geographer over the more accurate calculations of a Greek geographer. So, okay, neither here and there. But the problem was that Columbus assumed that a Persian geographer was referring to Roman miles in his calculations, when in reality he was referring to Arabic miles. So a very similar issue with, inconsistency of the measurement system there. Anyways, he hit the Americas, so I guess it's kind of hard to miss, right? You have a whole continent there, but probably if he would have, followed the Greek geographer with the Roman miles as well, probably he would have ended up a bit north, like North America.
Right.
So, the landing would have been different, and maybe the impact on the locals would have been different.
Yes, that's true. I mean, consistency in the data really does have a huge impact. I'm just thinking there could be so many examples of this that I'm sure were just maybe not as highlighted and as popular. But even currency differences, right? Like I had a client once, we agreed on a certain rate where I was thinking it was US dollars and they were thinking something else. And at the end, when the bill was paid, it was like, oh, that's not what I agreed to. And they're like, oh, we thought you were talking in our currency. And I'm like, From that point, I put USD on all my contracts just to make it clear that that is the currency we're working with.
I've had a very similar issue, but I have to tell you, sometimes it's nice when I assume we're talking in Canadian and the client assumes we're talking in American, which is better for the conversion rate for myself.
Yes. So, George, thanks for sharing. I always love your stories about the data quality and the issues. I know you probably have like at least 10 more that you can share, but I know we're about halfway through the show already, which time really flies on these dedicated shows. I want to get into the impact of the artificial intelligence and sort of this excitement around AI, how that's impacting the world of data quality. Because now there are lots of organizations that are thinking, hey, I want AI or I want generative AI. I have data, but they might not have the best data quality. And there's probably a data governance or data team somewhere saying, finally, this company cares about data quality, because you need good data quality to get good output for Gen AI, right? Have you seen an uptrend in the space?
Yeah, right now, what we're also seeing in data governance is trying to be data/AI governance. So it's like expanding, not just to focus on data, but also in correlation to the AI governance piece as well. And obviously they're intertwined, right? You can't have AI without the data behind it. And we're also seeing it the other way around, that AI now is trying to have an impact on the data that we're working with as well. As we're producing so much content and so much information with it, a lot of it, unstructured, some semi-structured, but we're definitely adding to that big data pool that we have. And we're also now utilizing AI to help us, improve some of our processes, some of our techniques, sometimes even generating training data for us. So it's kind of one of those weird cycles and loops that if it doesn't go unchecked, it can really end up to disastrous results, because AI is based on data and we're asking AI to produce data or help us improve that data. And if that initial data quality is not there, it's not sufficiently good, then we're all in big trouble.
So you're saying AI is not this like magic box that's always perfect?
Right.
We need to feed it good data? Oh my God, what kind of monster is this?
Well, I'll tell you this one story, and this is from a few years ago as well, I guess before AI was all the hype, but it's still there, maybe not as advanced as we have it now in some of these latest models. And I'm not talking about ChatGPT, but obviously the AI world is a lot bigger, right, than that.
Yeah.
And I guess this kind of ties into the jail story, to Mars or to jail. But there's this company called TransUnion. They do background checking
Oh, yeah,
stuff
I know
and
Tencent.
other things on, like insurance checking and your credit card scores and all that stuff.
Mhm.
And anyways, they've automated a system where it goes through all these different data sources that they had access to be able to compile all these reports on you. And it's used to be, might still be, but I know it used to be used for background checking as well.
Mhm.
And at the time, again, years ago, so they've definitely, I assume, fixed their issues since then. But they've inaccurately tagged, it was 8,100 individuals as threats to national security in the US during, like, in a 6 month period or so. But it's still 8,100.
Wow.
Of course, that resulted in a big lawsuit against the company and all that stuff. But can you imagine, there was like 8,100 individuals. Now they were seen as a threat to national security, and that's really because of they didn't have a robust data quality record matching process as part of their like ETL step on acquiring, merging in master data from multiple sources and all that stuff. Probably they didn't have policies or on I don't know, sufficient use of data.
Mhm.
There's like a lot of layers behind it. But again, you can imagine a lot of lives were really impacted by bad data quality. All of a sudden, people were on the no-flight list, so they were trying to board a plane, and they're like, "Oh, we can't let you board a plane."
Oh my God.
Some, lost their jobs. Some, like their families or neighborhood, kind of turned against them, like, "Oh my God, we didn't know we had a terrorist in our neighborhood," type of thing, right?
But
And
what actually went wrong there? Like, do you know the details?
yeah, so uh, not a lot of the details, but I think it was kind of a mismatching piece that was handled automatically behind the scenes, and there weren't enough checks and balances to
Oh my God.
double check that the name of the individual that they were matching against, even though they might have the same name, they're actually not the same person.
Wow. And I think that's what happens. Human nature is we feel like, let's say if I ask ChatGPT a question every day, and for the past 3 weeks, it's been giving me great answers and it's sort of helping me do whatever I need to do.
Mhm.
Now I have this reliance and expectation that it will continue to do so.
Right.
And you sort of stop thinking that maybe everything it's saying is not 100% right. Like we're like, okay, you do it now. The system knows best. That's what the system said. And unfortunately, I think that's going to get a lot of people and companies in trouble likely this year. I think this is going to be the year of mayhem with all of this. And then regulation will follow shortly
as you
after.
might know, Google has a big problem on this. Why, as you notice, sometimes it doesn't give you, the right answer. So you kind of tend to fact check, especially if you're, asking ChatGPT about people. I mean,
Oh yeah,
a
I mean
lot,
something
a lot
that's going to put them
there,
on a list like that, then
right? But a lot of times, just us, on the day to day, or even like creating content and things like that, we would want to fact check certain things that we're asking its help with. And we tend to fact check against Google sources. So we go on Google, we type something, we, scroll through a few articles that seem from reputable sources, and we're like, oh, okay, yeah, maybe that's right, or maybe that's not. But what's happening now is that a lot of these companies, even reputable ones, they are using tools like ChatGPT or Gemini, which used to be called Bart, to create content as well, and it's
that
not
sits
always
on
fact
Google
checked.
somewhere.
And exactly, yeah, now it's so we're fact checking against the same results that we would get from one of these ChatGPTs.
Yes, what I do now is I use ChatGPT and I say provide sources for any of the questions that I ask, and then it sort of gives me a link to where it found it for every piece of information it provides.
Nice.
It makes it much more it's easier to at least go in there and check, but
Yes.
you're right, some of those sources could have been created by someone who just used ChatGPT to publish that article.
Yeah.
It's an interesting time we live in.
Right. And, this kind of gets to show you really how dependent we are on data and the quality that comes with it.
Yeah.
And, definitely we wouldn't want to go to our bank account and for that not to be accurate.
Well, depends.
In the bank's favor. Okay.
Add a few zeros out. I'm okay with that. Can you imagine? That would be so funny. Oh, look, Scott's here. Let's acknowledge that Scott Taylor is in the building.
Hey, Scott.
Scott, thanks for joining. So, wanted to ask you a question because a lot of the audience who are listening are data people, and they might be thinking, well, how do we know if we have good data quality, bad data quality, and sort of some of the KPIs or metrics that you can use to get a pulse on, are we good? Are we bad? Are we somewhere in the middle?
Yeah. So, I mean, normally data quality has all these dimensions that you're measuring against that are data quality specific. So, like the main four ones are accuracy, completeness, reliability, consistency. But of course, because nothing is simple and straightforward, each company could have their own definitions on how they're defining accuracy and completeness and reliability. Timeliness, and so many others. Actually, there's this research paper, late 90s, I think it was, from MIT, and they were doing a bit of research on how many dimensions would you have in data quality, and they've uncovered about like 20, I think they listed.
Oh, I thought it was like 12. Wow, it was 20.
Right? 20. There's this guy that started this website, the Confirmed Dimensions of Data Quality. He was gathering all these different research papers and presentations, books of everybody kind of talking about these dimensions, and he was trying to make some sense of them and trying to align them. So out of them, I think he came up with 10 or 11. So he was offering a more of a standard definition on accuracy, and then referring to how other people or other companies might describe it as or name it as, but we're actually kind of referring to the same thing. So he was trying to kind of merge all these and make it a little bit more, just kind of easy to follow. So normally maybe there are 10, but most companies have 4 to 5 that they're measuring against. So this is a good measurement. But what's even more important is how can we tie these measurements to some business metrics. So
why is that important, George? Why do we care about the business?
Why do we care about the people, right? So obviously, that's why we're doing it. We don't want to cleanse data just for the sake of cleansing it. That's
yes,
a bit of a waste of time.
If we're Susan Walsh, we love cleaning data.
Of course, yeah, and it is a very satisfying job, I would say. You're always check. You feel like you've done something good. But it needs to be done with a purpose. It needs to be done towards something. That's why we have all this dark data at times, so data that it's just being stored there and not being used for anything. And it would be a bit silly to maintain that, to cleanse it, if it's never going to be used. It's really kind of throwing resources out the window. So we want to make sure that when we're investing these resources in data quality, it's something that would benefit the business, is going to benefit our goals, internal or external ones that we have. So that's why that's important. So it's good to tie our metrics, our data quality metrics, dimensions, to these business KPIs and show that relationship or how it helped different business units achieve their goals.
Yeah. So, for example, if there's a business that's using some sort of Salesforce system where they basically track the clients coming in, and there's a CRM tool of some sort that's tracking client interactions, and tying that to sales, obviously being the main business goal. I guess part of the metrics that could be used, like you mentioned, completeness, we could say 80% of the fields are filled in. Would that be one type of metric that could be used for measuring data quality?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and then we want to see why do we care about that, and maybe we do need to have that 8% completeness in order to derive other information based on it, to find out more about the customer profile,
right?
Or to be able to segment the customers, and then to be able to market to them better.
Have you ever worked or seen or spoken to anybody who had 100% data quality, of like perfect data quality?
Good. Yeah, great question. I don't think I have. I don't think that ever came up.
Is that
unless
a thing?
It's like a training set or something that they're using to learn.
Yeah, even my dedicated data is not perfect, and I'm like a tiny business.
And here's another, cool and interesting thing is that even, let's say we achieve 100% accuracy, completeness, all these other things one day, it doesn't guarantee that even if it's left untouched, it might not be as accurate the next day. And that's because certain data would have a natural decay factor to it. So for example,
Right.
contact data, addresses, right?
Yeah.
You have, it's your address is complete, it's reliable, it's consistent, it's accurate, like your home address.
And then you move.
And then you move, exactly. And it's only part of those things now because it doesn't belong to that customer anymore.
Right. And now, very important question from the audience. George, where's your latte? There you go.
Right here.
And where's Diana?
She's in the other room. She's doing a course, like a dancing course.
Oh, well, that's fun. I just wanted to say hi to her. Okay, cool. Nice. All right. So one of the last questions I had was around LightsOnData in general, right? So I know you do a lot of stuff there, and we both sort of spoke about it in the beginning, but I want to take a slightly deeper dive into your courses, maybe especially the ones on data governance, data quality related courses. Where can people find them, and who are those courses generally for?
Thanks so much for prompting that. You can find them on LightsOnData.com. It's going to be right in your face as you're going to see it. There's a few courses available. Check them out. You can also get them as part of bundles. And it's really for anybody that wants to get some practical knowledge on these topics of data governance and data management, data visualization. So, and there's more to come too.
Ooh.
Usually, what I've noticed is I was initially targeting people that are already in the field. They're already working as maybe data stewards, data quality engineers, data managers in general. And what I found is that there's actually a lot of people from the business side, a lot of people within data analytics as well that want to learn a little bit more about this because they've uncovered that, hey, we don't want to just cleanse data for 80% of our time. Yeah. We want to support and establish the programs that would get rid of all of that. And then there's all these other people from the business side that were kind of like thrown in by the manager saying, hey, yeah, I heard about data governance. We need something like that. You're it.
Yeah, and then you also hear about, like, when I remember one of my first jobs, I was at a bank, and then out of nowhere, we became like data stewards. Like, you are now in charge of maintaining data quality for this specific part of the business. And so we didn't really know what data stewards were, and we had to learn. And would your course sort of be good for someone, like you mentioned, who's not in the data space and has been given this role that they now have to understand, but they don't necessarily need to be a complete expert. They just need to know enough.
Exactly. And what I try and stay away from is a lot of the theory part. So I like to go a lot more into the practical aspects. And the way I've created them is to, going back in my career and my learning experience, is what I wished I had access to at the time. So because of that, I'm providing a lot of templates and a lot of examples, a lot of like pre-filled templates as well. And I find, at least from my point of view, at least it's so much easier to find, like, can you just give me like an actual example? Give me that document of like, how do I create that policy or that data quality standard? And then, I'll take that as an example. I'll massage it and edit it to kind of fit my own industry and needs too. So that's what
templates are so helpful. I remember trying to just Google, like when I was in risk management as well, doing a risk control self-assessment. And I'm like, I need to know what this looks like. What is that? Give me 5 samples, right? That I can look at all 5 and sort of make a decision on which one fits me best or my needs. And then from that perspective, templates are extremely helpful and just save you so much time because you can now see what it looks like and what you need to do. So
exactly.
So you mentioned practical. Do you cover any tools for how do you actually maintain data quality?
No, I mostly go over what are the features that you should look for in a tool. So the courses are tool agnostic, and also those can change, and they do change every month.
Yes, they do.
So I'm trying to cover more on, here are the must-haves that you should look into, and here's the nice-to-have. So when you're doing your shopping around, make sure you understand all these things, and also kind of watch out for some of the promises that maybe the marketing departments would have for you, and maybe what type of questions you should ask.
Right. Okay. Well, George, this has been super helpful. Like I said, time really does fly when you're having fun, but I had a great time, and thank you for teaching everybody about data quality, about how it can take us to Mars. potentially puts some people in jail, which honestly is not the worst thing because some people do belong there, right?
True.
I won't go into all that, but it's there for a reason. So play by the rules, everybody. But yeah, this has been great. Thank you for being on the Dedicated show for like what, the 5th, 6th, 7th time now. I've lost track how many times we've done a show like this, but it's always fun.
Thank you again so much, and for always putting amazing content.
Great. Well, everybody follow George Firican on LinkedIn. Go to YouTube, subscribe to his LightsOnData YouTube channel, and definitely go check out the courses. And as George said like 3 times already, stay tuned. More stuff is coming, so keep your eyes peeled for that. All right, stay dedicated. I will see everybody online.
Bye, everyone.